Thanks, Deb. I was a 4-H girl back in Ohio. Heine, she has a bachelor's degree in English Language and Literature from Morningside College. She is currently the chamber manager at VCDC, also involved in the community as a treasurer for St. Agnes PTSA. She's a board member for the Clay County Historical Society and Fair Board, and a member of Vermillion Next. Thank you for being with us today.
Okay. Thank you very much for letting me speak to you guys today. I remember my very first introduction to Rotary was working at the Media and Journalism Department as a senior secretary, so I remember making sure the tables were setting up and Mr. Munster was happy, and that was pretty much how we accomplished the Rotarian meeting. My name is Katie Heine. In a previous life, I was Katie Sokolowski from Wakanda, South Dakota on 456th Avenue. We grew up on a hobby farm. I'm the oldest of 6 kids. My mom is a nurse, still is, at Avera Sacred Heart Hospital in Yankton, and my dad is a welder at Wilson Trailer. He's also a longtime band member of Crystal Blue Band, which would have rolled around in the late 70s in this area, and then later Midnight Special. So we had a very fun childhood. Of that included 4-H, and I will touch on that in a moment, but I would be remiss if I didn't touch on some things with my favorite job ever, being our chamber manager here at the VCDC. I just have a couple quick topics to talk about. Our VCDC growth, it might not be what you think of. We are having new members and new businesses all the time. But our organization is growing as well. We welcomed a new event specialist, Raina Bundy, who's here today. She is my right-hand gal, and she's helping to make sure that we have all these fun things happening in Vermillion, and that all the right people are at the table. So welcome, Raina. We're so happy to have you. Some of our events that Raina will be handling, we're in the throes of Thursdays on the Plots. We have 2 more weeks left on our location. We will be at the fair this week, tabling and giving out some prizes. So we have a brand new prize wheel. So if that piques your interest, stop by. We'll have some goodies. And then we have a community crawl that we're working with the USD Student Services, participating in the last weekend of August. It's August 31st. We're helping the students get introduced to Vermillion and all the businesses. It's more details to follow, but it's going to be a really great intro for those students to get to know our community. Our new businesses, we have several. One of them in particular, Mamacita's, is moved into the Hallmark Square. They also have a very fun, how do I want to put this, grammatical error that just adds character to their name. There's a rogue apostrophe hanging out in the tacos, so you'll have to check them out once they open up. We're very excited to have them. One of my kind of pet projects with the chamber manager position, I'm saving for the development section here. We are the Vermillion Area Chamber and Development Company, and I would like to embrace the area part of that. Being from Wakanda, I want to make sure that our extension communities are involved, so I've been reaching out to Irene, South Dakota, and Wakanda. They're more of my hometown, so it's my stomping grounds. I'm a little more familiar. Irene's Community Development Corporation are on board with a partnership with the VCDC to help tackle some of the same problems they're having. They might be on a smaller scale, but they're still struggling with housing and childcare as well. So we're going to make sure that we have a streamline of support to them. Wakanda is next. I coerced Darby Ganshaw to let me speak at their event, and we'll be talking to them about a partnership. And then Gayville, Vollen, Meckling will all be down the pipeline as well, with the grand scope and my goal to be tapping into Nebraska communities as well. Several moms that I met over the summer bring their kids for Parks and Rec events, and they shop and they doctor here in Vermillion. So any outreach and connection or partnership that we have is going to be really exciting to be a part of. So watch for that. I'm going to start off with a little trivia. Not trivia, an exercise. How many 4-H alums do I have in the room? Do you remember the pledge? Okay, we're all gonna learn it together. If you would like to stand, you can. If you can stand, stand. If you cannot, stand in your heart. We're gonna say the first part, we'll teach it to you, and then by the time my spiel is over, I would imagine all of you will have memorized it to a T. So, of course, there's 4 H's, hence the name 4-H. They are head, heart, health, and hands, not in that order. And so you can repeat after me, we'll break up into 4 pieces. I pledge my head to clear thinking.
I pledge my head to clearer thinking.
I pledge my heart to greater loyalty.
I pledge my heart to greater loyalty.
I pledge my hands to larger service.
I pledge my hands to larger service.
And my health for better living.
And my health for better living.
For my club, my community, my country, and my world.
For my club, my community, my country, and my world.
Okay, do we feel comfortable putting that all together? Okay, we'll touch on that at the end. You may sit. Thank you. If you'll, I am excited to talk about 4-H and kind of its purpose, its mission, and the population that it touches, but if you'll indulge me, I'll also add some personal touches. Probably like many of you, you got involved into 4-H because maybe your mother or father told you to, and that was me also. My mom showed horses competitively, and she traveled throughout several states showing horses, and so naturally, being raised with horses, I wanted to be on a horse all the time. And so that was my first step into 4-H. And then my dad had picked up some hours at a hog farm that was just down the road. And of course, boss man wanted some kids to show his hogs. We had Durocs. Anybody know what the Duroc? What color are Durocs? Red. Nice, very good. They're still my favorites. And that's how we started. And you kind of get thrown into it and you learn on the go. I grew into my role in 4-H doing horses and pigs, and I also showed cats, which I tend to leave off my resume. So if you want to know any more about how to show a cat, I'd be more than happy to show you. But that was exciting stuff. I added this graphic. I think it really is important for a lot of people to understand that 4-H is not just livestock and not just agriculture. The whole purpose of it is to kickstart a thirst for learning, almost an adventurous side of learning, that you can learn how to do hard things, you can do hard things, and it starts with 4-H, and your guidance and your leaders who are going to help you are the people who are either working it, teaching it, or they're parenting in it. So we have natural resources, leadership, communications, and expressive art. Tap into the arts as well. Health, family and consumer sciences, of course, agriculture, and the science and engineering and technology. If you get a chance, if you're visiting the Clay County Fair website, we do have a supplemental book, and you can see all of the different activities and different fields that these 4-Hers can be a part of. One of my favorite parts about 4-H is the animal leasing program. For any of our city or suburban residents or 4-Hers who would like to try showing an animal, we have a leasing program where you can get in touch with a family who already has an animal that's ready to show, and they go and they practice. They go to the farm and they handle their calf, they wash it every day or whatever else they need to do. So there really are no closed doors in 4-H, which I definitely appreciate. Our 4-H motto is to make the best better. Some of our famous alumni include previous former President Jimmy Carter, as well as Reba McEntire. We've got a whole list of famous alumni. The University of California did a study recently, and the statistics for 4-H alum into the workforce is really impressive. 4-H youth are 3.5 times more likely to contribute to their communities, are twice as likely to be civically active, and are twice as likely to go to college or on to secondary education or learning. And then 83% of 4-H youth are comfortable being a leader because on a small scale or a larger scale, they really have to be, whether it's them and an animal or them tackling an oven, baking something, or if they're part of their group being the president, they learn leadership in a way that they can. The USDA started 4-H, at least in South Dakota is what my reading led me to, was a youth development program, and it's specifically for youth because I feel like that root for continual learning and that desire to keep learning has to start when they're little, when they're young. And that it's okay to not know something now, you can figure it out. Someone's gonna teach you, and you're gonna learn, and then you can get better at it and get better and better. And that was something, believe it or not, I was very shy growing up, and I was very not as confident. And so 4-H really helped me to come out of that and convince myself that I can do the hard things and I can learn, and it just gets better from there. Specifically Clay County, we have 8 clubs, and we have members within 10 towns. You do not have to be in Clay County. You can be what's called a member at large, and you can still be part of our 4-H club if you would like. We do have some area counties who are not quite as large and don't have quite as big of a livestock presence as Vermillion's does, Clay counties. So members at large can travel from different counties and show here. We have Clover Buds. Clover Buds are our little showmen. They're just starting, just figuring out 4-H, and they can show chickens, any companion animals, so a hamster, guinea pig, or cat. And they can also bring in, there is a cat show. It's part of the companion show. You'll have to check it out. I think every year somebody's cat takes off. So, just decides they're not for it. So, our beginner division is 8 to 10 years, junior division 11 to 13, and then our senior division 14 years and older. There's also an opportunity for students or 4-Hers to be a 4-H ambassador once they reach a certain age, and they have a lot more opportunities for spreading the word about 4-H and growing our club. There is a difference between 4-H and open class. You might notice if you are at the fair, there are blue ribbons that signify first place, and there's purple ribbons that signify like the better. 4-H goes by a different ribbon scale. 4-H has purple as superior, blue as excellent, red as good, and then white is like needs work or something. I wouldn't know, I never got white. So, and then the open class, that's not true, I know I got a white somewhere down the road. In open class, it goes the traditional blue, red, white, and then yellow, and that's more of a placing. The nice part about the 4-H ribbons is that they're more of a sliding scale, and you can, this needs work, or this is an opportunity to get better. And historically, when I was showing, you had to get a purple on your project in order to take it to state fair, because our numbers had kind of dipped down as far as participating at state fair had gotten quite low. They don't do that anymore. And anybody can take their stuff to state fair, which is exciting because it definitely fills up the buildings. This was our action plan after our action report for 2023. We have a total membership of 496, and that's just shy of 20% of our youth in our county are part of 4-H, which is really great. I love that they include our volunteer investment. We very much like Rotary, our 4-Hers have a lot of commitment to volunteer hours in the community, and they've totaled 3,400 hours of volunteer time in the community. So, and there's a lot of overlap, and that's probably one of my favorite things about the leadership even in 4-H and all the parents and the students. You see them, they might be part of the booster club for the high school athletics, or they might be sitting next to you at church, and everybody's involved in everything else, and I love the overlap, and that's pretty much all of Vermillion. It's not just 4-H. Again, I'll indulge a little bit on my favorite memories about 4-H. The meetings that we went to, each club has to have a meeting per month, and you talk about all the upcoming things, but it's also to introduce these 4-Hers into Robert's rules of how to hold a meeting and the proper processes. It's very interesting trying to get a bunch of clover buds to vote on something. We had this year, my kids they were clover buds, and our group, the Burbank Feeders, is probably the largest collection of clover buds, and we were trying to vote on officers, and because we had to, and there were several double votes, there were several no votes. We needed, I think, we had 20 members voting, and sometimes we had 27 votes, and we had 19, and they all liked the ideas, and so everybody voted. So the legitimacy of that election is questionable. So the meetings, and my favorite part about being in the meetings was that you got to see all of your friends and your cool cousins and your neighbor's really cute older brother, and you got to like sit kind of close and like just be involved, and being part of a group at that young of an age is kind of a really great way to build up your self-identity and your self-confidence, and I think that definitely helped me along the way. In those meetings you did demonstrations. Demonstrations could be anything from cooking your favorite meal or your favorite appetizer to breaking down a horse bridle. I took a bridle that we use for saddle seat. It's a little different. It's not the Western style. It's a double bit and 4 reins. So if you can imagine a little girl with 9 with teeny tiny little hands and 2 reins in each hand and holding on to a 1,200-pound animal in sweltering heat. I mean, it might answer some questions about what's going on up here with me. But I learned how to keep cool under some high-stress circumstances, and learned also your limits. You learn, like, well, I'm only 9, my feet don't really reach around this horse's tummy. Like, you learn to navigate what you can control and what you can't. So one of my demonstrations was to show the difference between this bridle that most people don't see, and so learning to speak in front of people and also explain the differences, and then also not ramble. Community presence, we volunteer a whole lot, and again, being a part of a 4-H group and being able to say, yeah, I'm a 4-Her. I was a young producer in Wakanda, and so we had a very, very large group, and having that identity was really, really special. We went to 4-H camp in Madison, and that was the first time I had ever stayed away from home, not with relatives, and it was the best time. They are still doing 4-H camp. We get some of the older kids to do 4-H ambassador, and they host the camp, and then there's parents as well. And we do all sorts of crafts, a lot of safety, first aid learning. It's continuous learning in a really fun environment, and the 4-H camp makes that even more special. The horse shows, the cat shows, yes, there's actually cat shows, and the pig shows, they are still, till this day, my favorite. You get dressed up. Back then when I was showing, you had to wear a white button-up collared long sleeve shirt and denim, like black jeans or black pants. And I think it is, yeah, this is this picture. This is me and my now husband at our very first hog show together. Luke is 9, 10 there, and I'm 9. I beat him in the showmanship class, and he never let me win ever again, but his family never let him forget. And his grandma, Gail, had posted this picture on Facebook, and he had about 5 college friends comment on how big his wife's belt buckle is compared to his. And he doesn't like this picture as much as I do. So the shows were a lot of fun. You really got to showcase your animal, but also it taught you how to deal with high stress. You're dealing with an animal, so not just high stress for yourself, but you're also considering somebody else, another life, your other 4-Hers, and then all the while there's some random stranger judging you, literally, and you have to make sure that you're watching them and watching your animal as well. It taught you so much, and really to be resilient and to brave pretty much anything. The Clay County Fair, one of my favorites. Living in Wakanda, coming to the big city of Vermillion was like the best thing ever because they had a McDonald's and a Walmart and it was fabulous. And we would come Monday night and set up, and you didn't mind the work because you were with your friends and you knew you were going to go eat somewhere in Vermillion later, so it was a great time. And it's wonderful to see it driving up and it just being bare bones, and then at the end of the day when you're sweaty and tired and it came together and now it's this fabulous thing you get to go hang out at later for the rest of the week. Of course, we had the carnival when I was younger. The carnival's days have kind of petered out, but we have a really great presence with the inflatables. They're really, really popular. Being on the fair board, we made some changes. I've been on the fair board for about 10, 11 years, and we were told we could never move the demolition derby. Everybody knows about the demolition derby, very, very popular. A lot of people couldn't get to it after work on a weeknight, which is totally understandable, and you'll have those on your committee that say, no, you can't move it, no one will come, there'll be riots in the streets. And we did anyways, and we moved it to Saturday a couple years back, and it opened up a whole new sense and a new format for us to build a better fair. And the team that we have now, especially with Missy O'Connor, the best thing to ever happen to our fair, and it's only growing, and we're really, really proud of what it's become. State Fair, one of my favorites as well. Huge, much bigger scale, obviously, than your county fair. But it's an experience that I think every kid should have, whether they're showing something or presenting something or even just visiting. Because I feel like once they see these other kids competing and being a part of something so great, it kind of gets them interested, if not in 4-H, in something. To see kids their age doing something that big. I think that might be it for me for 4-H. Trying to remember if I need to touch on anything else. I have huge respect for our leaders. I went through several leaders. One of my favorites were Bev and Bill Kennedy. They were part of our Lucky Trailblazers Horse Club, and they were our coaches, and I was the only girl in our club who did not have a Western style horse, and so we move faster. Their horse's head is up higher, they're snorting, they're pawing, they're a little obnoxious. Perfect fit for me, right? And I was a little bit out of my sorts, and Bill said, tough, you get in there with the big girls and you ride with the big girls then. I said, okay, and it worked, and I have a fairly successful, fairly full trophy case at home that I really attest to, or am thankful for Bill and Bev kind of shoving you into that situation, and it turned out for the better for all of us. All of my siblings were in 4-H, and it was an experience that I hope every kid can have, and it ultimately led me to meeting my husband, and our kids are in 4-H, and that's our story. Can we test our memories and see if we can remember the 4-H pledge? Yes. All right, don't everybody jump up at once now. Okay. I pledge my head to clearer thinking, my heart to greater loyalty, my hands to larger service, and my health to better living, for my club, my community, my country, and my world. That's it. Thank you. Let's stay for questions. I will allow some questions. Yes, Jim?
Can you tell us what building 4-H uses today in Vermillion, and how often it is used?
So of the 365 days, 278 of those days, our 4-H building is used for 4-H events, but also for community projects, community gatherings. The ESA, the Christmas tree, the Giving Tree uses that space as well. We are outgrowing our space, so that the large building on High Street that the extension office lives in is quite outdated, but we use it for everything. Right now it's housing the exhibits. So all the foods, all the horticulture, all the photography, that's where that lives during the fair. But weeks leading up to it, we have 3 nights a week. One group in particular, our shooting sports group, is in there training. And then we have dog practice there as well. And I believe there's some other obedience classes there. Come Create days, when these kids come and make their projects. If they don't have the supplies at home, they can come to the fair, the 4-H building, and make some exhibits. That's where they have those, any kind of trainings, several meetings as well. And then the buildings that are on site, in the off season, we use those for storage. People can store their RVs, their campers, or their boats there, and then that money goes back to the fair board and is used directly into the fair. We have a hog barn that is hog, sheep, and goats. Right now we are over capacity. We've had to have our goats spill into the next building. Our chicken building is bursting at the seams, and several goats and turkeys will make their, geese and turkeys will make their appearance this year. And the beef barn is not quite as full, but the space that the beef exhibitors need is growing for sure. They bring quite a bit of equipment. Yes?
Your picture of you and the second place boy with the hog.
Yes.
Emphasis on second place boy. Who's that fellow in the red shirt?
You know, I wish I could remember.
To work at Campbell.
Yes, yep. I wish I could remember, because he, just to add salt into the wound here, he made the comment, they have to give you reasons. So after they judge your course, your class, they have to explain to the crowd why they placed them 1, 2, 3, 4, or whatever it was. And he went on about how close it was. Luke, my husband, is a dedicated showman. He went to camp after camp after camp. And I show up my first year and beat him. And the judge said it was so close, but that little girl had the sweetest smile, and she looked at me the whole time. And that infuriates Luke to this day, that I won with a smile. But yeah, you use what you got, I guess. But I wish I could remember, because I want to say he judged for another 3 or 4 years, and was definitely a welcome face. Yeah. Yes, sir.
I've seen that you're talking about the possibility of a different fairground. Where are you at on that, and what's the rationale behind that?
Yes, thank you. There is a separate steering committee made up of fair board members and 4-H parents and leaders who are organizing the plans to move or relocate. We are looking at options. We haven't set on a site yet. We're working really closely with our county commissioners. Our VCDC offices are a great support as well, and the city on top of it. We're trying to consider any needs that the city has also. A while back there was the ICAP study where they were visiting or kind of looking into a community center. The needs of a community center are often overlapping what we need in our fairgrounds. More space, up-to-date buildings. Right now our fairgrounds, the buildings are, they were built in the late 60s, early 70s, and they've just become dilapidated. And the fair board has a healthy budget, but we have to be very, very careful, because right now the money that we're putting in to those buildings to keep them safe for the exhibitors and for the animals is just throwaway, because they don't sustain those improvements that we make are for the year, for the show season. They don't last every single year. So our buildings are in really tough shape. And then the great big arena that we have, the Demolition Derby and the ATV Mud Drags, is too small. We have crowds from 3, 4 different states, and we can't fit them all. It's standing room only now for 3 nights in a row. If you don't get there an hour ahead of time, you don't get a seat. And the issue of parking is also a struggle. We have so many traveling to come to the fair. They're parking in the ditches, and we have no handicap parking, and that's not safe. We love that our club is growing, and we want to be able to have a space to grow along with it. We are looking at about 20 acres is our ideal space, with a main building, very similar to the Clay County Extension building, that can be used for events and our fair. And then we'd also like to have an outdoor like amphitheater that can be used for the demolition derby, as well as having any concerts or events that we could bring to Vermillion as well. So that, as far as right now, the steering committee has paused their process for fair. We're all parents and volunteers who are wrapped up in that, but after the fair is concluded, we're going to get back on it and think very seriously about our options for relocating.
Sorry if I missed it, but how is 4-H funded?
4-H is funded through, at least South Dakota, is funded through the state extension offices, and I think USDA has a portion of that. The USDA has funds that they allocate to 4-H, and then South Dakota's 4-H is operated through the SDSU extension, and that money is from the USDA as well, but it is from, I want to say, the college, from SDSU's extension program. Yes, Kelsey.
Just a quick story about the skills that Katie learned at 4-H. A few years ago at the fair, I got talked into doing the celebrity round robin, where they take people that aren't good with animals and make them interact with animals. And so that was me. I was a city kid that grew up in, like kind of the rough streets of Linden Avenue. I had not spent a lot of time around livestock, and so they make you go out and take these animals around that you have no idea what you're doing, and it's very funny. But I don't want to make animals mad, so I'm bad at disciplining them, and so my sheep just ran away. And Katie was up in the stands. She ran down, grabbed the sheep, put her leg over it, and had it in the hole, and then took it away. It was in the flash of an eye. It was incredible. I'd never seen anything like it. And so obviously you maintain those skills well into adulthood. The fact that you can just jump in and tackle a sheep. It was so
Thank you. Yep, that's also something I tend to leave off my resume. So. Yes, and it's funny now. Our kids they're breaking their sheep. That sounds terrible, but they are learning, halter training them is what we call it. They're teaching their sheep to lead. When you show a sheep, you have to show holding their head, and you walk alongside them. And my kids are always telling me how rough these sheep are and how Dad has to strong arm on every once in a while, and so, well, Dad has to struggle with this one, or number 8 is really hard and he always jumps or bucks at Dad. And then I get a hold of them, and for some reason they're good for me. And there's, Mom, why are you good at that? And he said, listen, do you know how big a horse is? It's this big. A sheep is this big. And they're like, oh, but can't Dad show a horse? No. No. Mom can. Dad cannot. Any other questions? Comments? Okay. Thank you again for having me. I loved being here.